Hello. Welcome to Redirect Yourself. Or, of course, if you've already been here before, welcome back. My name is Donna San Salvador, and I'm here today to continue from a previous video that I talked about beliefs. So, if you like it here and you've been here before, but you haven't subscribed, please do so. And I'd really like if some of you would comment and let me know anything you might want a video on, things that you've been struggling with or have had issues with that you maybe would like to know more about from a mental health perspective, or some hot tips that you can use to feel better. But today I'm going to talk about beliefs. So, in a previous video, I explained the role that beliefs play in our feelings. Please feel free to go back and watch those and then come back to this one if you haven't seen it. So I think it's called What Do Beliefs Have to Do with It? And then I also have a lot of videos on where feelings come from, as well as cognitive distortions. So the cognitive distortions cover our thoughts. There are quite a few thoughts that become patterns of thinking that are dysfunctional, aka distorted, which will lead to feelings that we really don't need to feel. So that if we can eliminate those distorted thoughts, then we might feel a little better, as well as garbage words, which are akin to absolute thinking, which definitely cause issues in our feelings. So today we're going to talk about beliefs. I do not like the way my glasses have a reflection. So I'm sorry about that, but I need them in order to see my sheet. So, what I want to do is I want to tell you a belief. And then, if you want to pause the video here and grab yourself a pen and a piece of paper, what I urge you to do is write down whether or not, when I say the belief, you think it's true or false to you. And then we will go back over them and I will explain to you each belief in the video. So now this video is going to be a little longer. We're at 2 minutes already. I try to keep these short so that you can grab them on the go. In this case, if you're in your car, you're driving, or you're on the go, you might want to save this one for later so that you can actually grab a pen and paper and do this little exercise. However, if you don't want to do it, you can skip forward. I don't yet know where that would be, but it's probably going to take me a good chunk of time to go through each of them. So if you've got a pen and paper, now we are going to go through these beliefs and you're going to determine if it is true or false for you in your belief system. So the first one is, do you believe, true or false, that it is absolutely essential for an individual to be loved or approved of by every significant person in his or her environment? True or false? The next one. So if you've gotten your answer for that one, we're going to go on to the next one. If you need to think about it, pause the video and then restart when you're ready. It is necessary that each individual be completely competent, adequate, and achieving in all areas if the individual is to be worthwhile. True or false for you? Number 3. Some people are bad, wicked, or villainous, and these people should be blamed and or punished. Is that one true or false to you? Number 4. It is terrible and catastrophic when things are not the way that an individual wants them to be. True or false for you? Number 5. Unhappiness is a function outside of the control of the individual. That's number 5. True or false for you? Number 6. If something is dangerous or harmful, an individual should constantly be concerned and think about it. True or false for you? Number 7. We have 11 total, if you're wondering. It is easier to run away from difficulties and self responsibility than it is to face them. True or false? Number 8. Individuals need to be dependent upon others and have someone stronger than themselves to lean on. Right now, we're just deciding true or false for you. Number 9, past events in an individual's life determine present behavior and cannot be changed. Do you think that's true? Number 10. An individual should be very concerned and upset by other individuals' problems. And last but not least, because these are really in no particular order, there is always a correct and precise answer to every problem, and it is catastrophic if it's not found. True or false? Once you have your answers, if you need to go back and think about it, rewind, replay one, give a little bit more thought, maybe think of some examples in your mind, please feel free to do so. But in the interest of time, I'm going to move it right along. So, number one, that was the question about it being essential for everyone to be loved and approved of by the significant people in their environment. Now, key word here would be significant people. We're not saying, right, every single person everywhere has to approve of you or love you. But even when we pinpoint it to significant people, it's still irrational. So if you said true, you're going to want to spend a minute on this one, right? It is irrational because although it is desirable, of course, for individuals, myself, you, to be loved, it is irrational because it is absolutely impossible for you or anyone else to be loved or approved of by everyone that is significant to them. And to strive and attain this goal leads to behavior that is what we know as people pleasing, which doesn't really please anyone, and it is not self directed. So instead of finding out what is one's own truth, what is one's preference, and living in accordance to that, and surrounding oneself with people who also support, encourage, and are like minded in those desires, instead, what we try to do is mold ourselves to be what we think other people want. And that doesn't do anything except cause anxiety and for us to try to bend ourselves into pretzel. So if you said true earlier in this video, then the likelihood of you being a people pleaser or this showing up in ways of the way that you communicate and the thoughts that you have leading to your feelings, this is going to be one for you to take a look at. And I will talk about what to do about this in another video. Right now, we just want to decide what irrational beliefs do we have operating in our belief system and begin to start to recognize what thoughts come from that belief that we might want to look at changing because feelings come from thoughts. All right, number two. If you put that you thought it was indeed necessary for individuals to be competent and completely adequate and achieving in all areas in order for the individual to be worthwhile, you might want to look into the thoughts that you have about that because it's impossible for anybody, any of us humans, to be competent in every endeavor. And if you feel that you must be, then you're doomed to sensing and seeing yourself as a failure because no human is going to get everything right all the time, not even the endeavors that they really try hard at. So, what's going to happen is this will lead a person to view situations in terms of competitiveness, to try to rank yourself against others, and it'll help you to strive to beat others instead of engaging in an activity for the pleasure of the activity and or to improve. So it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's something for work, whether it's something, as a hobby, instead of competing with other people and seeing things as a contest or a way of being somebody worthwhile, because one and two kind of go together sometimes. So if you're not competent and adequate and achieving in all areas, then does that mean you're not a worthwhile human being or person? So we want to take a look at that if you said true for this one. Number three, some people are bad, wicked, or villainous, and these people should be blamed or punished. The idea of this is irrational because we all make mistakes. Human beings just innately make mistakes. And the acts of mistakes are results typically of stupidity or ignorance or an emotional imbalance or a lack of knowledge of how to regulate. not because a person is a certain way. Furthermore, blame and punishment are not effective ways of changing behavior. The rational idea is to admit that we all make mistakes, that this does not make us worthless, and that if a mistake is made, then there is an attempt to correct the mistake. And in fact, even when we're talking about people who have done criminal acts as mistakes, right? The department is called the Department of Corrections, the prison system. So it's the Department of Corrections. It's not the Department of Rehabilitation. That's true. And it's also not the Department of Punishment. It's the Department of Corrections. At some point, some people are deemed to be in a position where they cannot be corrected. The behavior is so heinous that we need to protect society from them. But in most cases, the idea is that the person could correct their behavior. This is not a moral issue. This is not for us to debate. This is for you to look at your own beliefs and see what thoughts stem from these beliefs that you might be able to change so you can feel better. Because feelings come from thoughts. I'm going to say that again and again. Anyway, on to the next. It is terrible and catastrophic when things are not the way that an individual wants them to be. The reality of life is that not all situations, in fact, many situations, will not be as the way that we want them to be. And it might be unpleasant, it might be bothersome, it might be frustrating when this happens, but it is not catastrophic. It is not the end of the world, and it is not terrible. So, treating an event as it's a catastrophe does not change the situation. It makes us feel worse. And if we can't do anything about it, then we need to accept it and deal with whatever has happened. Like me, I went through tons of hurricanes. I say tons. It was 3 in 2 years, but it sure felt like a ton, right? And it was completely out of my control, and I lost everything. Yes, I was down, and yes, I was depressed, but you see me now? Because that was a real catastrophe, right? Like an act of God. And yet, if I lament about it, where is that going to get me? I've got to still pick up the pieces, right? Things were blown away and washed away. And focusing on the catastrophe of it isn't going to get me to a better place. Number five, unhappiness is a function of events outside the control of the individual. Well, if you go back to a video called the hula hoop, you will see where this is also irrational because people and events can actually do very little harm other than physically abusing an individual or depriving an individual of such things as food. So, of course, for dependents, this is a problem. But as an adult, which I assume that you are if you're watching this video, and if you're not, if you're a kid, hey, good for you. You're getting a jump start. I'm proud of you. But we're not talking about dependence here. We're talking about people who are independent and no longer dependent on their parents. So, under the age of 18, this does not apply necessarily. But seldom does this happen in our society. Most events that we perceive as harmful are psychologically harmful, right? We feel hurt. These events are not actually harmful. It's our perception of the event, which is our thought, that is harmful. So it's the way that kids say sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. Because truth is that most of us get hurt by names or words. And if we don't think about them in a way that we tell ourselves we can't deal with them, instead, if we actually deal with them rather than telling ourselves we can't, then indeed we are in control of it because we're in control of our feelings. Again, visit my videos on the hula hoop if this is one of your first few videos at Redirect Yourself and see what I mean by that. Number six, if something may be dangerous or harmful, an individual should constantly be concerned and think about it. Well, this is irrational because thinking about it won't change it. And it might even lead to its occurrence. You know how that self fulfilling prophecy, like you think about, oh gosh, I really hope there's no traffic or road construction today. And then poof, every road you go down has road construction. Or gosh, I got to remember not to stub my toe. That little thing sticks out on my couch and you stub your toe right after you think that way. It happens to me sometimes. So thinking about it doesn't change it. Thinking about it might actually lead you to have it happen. And it might, in fact, make it worse than it actually is. The rational person tries to evaluate the event objectively and do what he or she can to alleviate the dangerous or fearful elements. So if I know that there's something sticking out on the couch, maybe I work a wide berth around it, or maybe I get it fixed so that I don't even have to think about it anymore. Number 7. And I would love for you to put comments if you want me to give more examples, or you have a specific example that you would like me to talk about. Feel free to put it down in the comments, and I will check the comments and try to address them. Number 7, it is easier to run away from difficulties and self responsibility than it is to face them. This is irrational because running away doesn't solve anything, right? It does not solve the situation. And usually the situation remains, and you're going to have to deal with it at some point in time. So, in fact, delaying it sometimes even causes it to be worse over time. Number 8, individuals need to be dependent upon others and have a person stronger than themselves to lean on. Depending on others leads to a life of insecurity and non growth. And such an individual doesn't learn to regulate and becomes at the mercy of others. So, if we learn to be independent, learn how to put up boundaries, and learn how to ask for help when we recognize that we're not able to do something on our own, then that is far better than to constantly be dependent on others. Number 9, past events in an individual's life determine present behavior. It cannot be changed. While the past influences the present, it doesn't determine it. And we do have a capacity to change the way we behave now, even though we may not be able to change our past, because behaviors are often a result of feelings, and our feelings come from thoughts. And if we can change those thoughts, which I know that you can, then of course that would mean that we can change the present by changing us. And when we change us, the amazing thing is the people around us tend to also change. So if I respond differently and react differently and I'm thinking differently, therefore I'm speaking differently to people, it makes sense that their responses and reactions to me will also be different. It's kind of like, the pebble in the pond. It affects the entire pond through the ripple. You're the pebble and the splash. And everything around you is the pond that gets affected by the ripple. It's like the butterfly effect, like my earrings, right? So, as they say, butterfly flapping its wings doesn't just have an effect on the butterfly, it affects a lot all around it. Number 10, an individual should be very concerned and upset by another individual's problems. This is irrational because often those problems have nothing to do with the person who's worrying about them. And if they do, getting upset actually hinders us being able to help the individual who has the problem or do something about the problem. And worrying certainly doesn't solve anything. In fact, if anything, it muddies the mind and leads to less critical thinking, where the more critical thinking we have, the better problem solving we can do. And so, if we want to help somebody solve their problems, then beginning to worry about it and obsessing about it is certainly not going to make the problem solving any better. And last, we're at 18 minutes. I might be able to get this all done under 20 to keep you going. Number 11. There is always a correct and precise answer to every problem, and it is catastrophic if it is not found. This is irrational because there are very few perfect solutions to everyday situations. And the search for perfection produces more anxiety. If you're looking for something that doesn't exist, it's likely to lead to anxiety. And an individual who believes this way is not going to be satisfied until they find the right solution, which again probably doesn't exist. And then they're going to be searching and searching and searching for one more solution. I am reminded of the guy in, if you've seen the show, A Good Place, who is incapable of making a decision. So there are no perfect answers. There are a multitude of solutions to most problems, unless we're talking about math, because I understand that with math, there are precise, correct answers. But in life, generally, there are not. There are more effective and less effective ways to do things. There are more beneficial and less beneficial ways to do things. And there are ways that we prefer to do things. But Maybe at work, for instance, right? The boss has a way that they prefer for you to do something. That doesn't make it the right or precise way, but certainly I would do what the boss wants because it's their company, right? You might have a different way that you prefer to do it. In fact, there's an old expression. I don't really like it. It's kind of gross, but there's 20 ways to skin a cat, 50 ways to skin a cat, I think. At any rate, point being that there are multiple ways to do things. And if we are so concerned with getting it perfectly done or finding the perfect solution, we are likely to not get it done. So I welcome your feedback on this. I hope it's helpful. The next step in this is trying to catch the thoughts that come from these beliefs, the ones that you had that you said were true for you. I'm hoping to get some comments on the video. I'm so glad you're here. I hope you'll come back again for more videos and I hope that you get something out of it. Have a wonderful day and I'll see you next time.